On June 12, 2022, Celsius users tapped withdraw. Instead, they got a locked screen. A month later, bankruptcy papers showed a $4.7 billion hole owed to customers. If you had money in that app, the panic wasn't just the loss. What's interesting, you'd realize the interest payments only worked while new deposits kept flowing in. And that raises a question. What kind of business breaks the second people want their money back? The punch bowl is full at 7 o'clock p.m. Ice clinks, music's on. By 7:20, the bowl is half empty. People keep lining up with plastic cups. You duck into the kitchen. You pour in more juice, then more soda, then water to stretch it. Guests think the party is a hit, but the bowl is not feeding itself. You're feeding it. Now add one twist. Every new person who walks in has to bring a 2-liter bottle. For a while, that makes you look like a genius. The bowl stays full. Everyone gets refills. You even promise each guest a little extra every hour for showing up. That extra is what finance people call yield, the interest-like return paid to you. And here's the catch. Your yield is not coming from a machine in the basement making new punch. It's coming from you, your fridge, and whatever the next guest carries through the door. Notice what matters here. The problem is not that guests enjoy punch. The problem is that the refill rate depends on constant outside help. The second 10 people crowd the table at once, asking for more than the kitchen can replace, your promise crashes into simple math. A steady business pays from cash that keeps coming in on its own. A fragile one pays from tomorrow's arrivals. So the party feels rich on the surface. Underneath, it's fragile. If new guests slow down, the refill table gets thin. If current guests all want their drinks back at once, the trick is exposed. Suddenly the bowl was never abundant. It was just being topped up. That's the reframe. Some platforms looked like they were rewarding patience. Really, they were running a buffet that needed fresh arrivals to keep serving old promises. If this clicks, subscribe. 2 of these a week. And once you see that, the next question gets sharper. When a platform pays high yield, what are the only 3 places that money can actually come from? Your phone buzzes on your lunch break. An app says it can pay you 12% yield, the percentage a platform promises to pay you. You tap the screen and think, nice, money while you sleep. Now strip away the fancy branding. That payout can only come from 3 places. First jar, plain cash. The platform already has money set aside. It uses part of it to pay you. That's the stable version. Boring, limited, real. Second jar, risky bets. Your money gets lent out or pushed into trades. Those trades are supposed to earn more than the platform promises you. If those bets work, the payout is real. If they fail, the promise stays but the money doesn't. Third jar, new deposits. Fresh users show up and move money in. That new cash gets used to cover yesterday's promised payouts. Nothing productive happened. The bowl just got refilled. The pattern is clear. There's a test. If a platform offers high yield, ask 3 questions. How much comes from cash? How much from real earnings? How much needs new people walking through the door? If the answer is vague, that's not sophistication. That's a warning label. Because the first jar can last. The second jar swings with losses. And the third jar dies, the second growth slows. So the real question isn't whether the payout looks high. It's which jar is doing the heavy lifting, and which one can look safe for months, right before it cracks. A 6% yield and a 16% yield can look identical for a while. Every Monday morning, both apps show the same thing, a little green number. Your balance inches higher while you make coffee. One feels boring, the other feels smart. But the difference is not the screen, it's the plumbing behind it. Start with the sturdy version. A landlord promises tenants hot water because the building is hooked to the city line. Water comes in, water goes out. If a few tenants shower longer, the system bends, but it doesn't instantly break. That's what a stable yield looks like. The payout comes from a source that keeps producing cash on its own. Maybe the rate changes, maybe it shrinks in bad times, but the faucet is real. Now flip the picture. Another building has no city line. The manager fills a rooftop tank with trucks every night. Worse, the tank has a crack. Tenants still get hot water this week, so nobody panics. The showers feel normal. The problem stays hidden because the manager refills faster than the leak. That's a fragile yield. It can keep paying for months, sometimes longer. But it only works while fresh money keeps arriving, or while risky bets keep winning. The payout looks smooth. The engine underneath is not. Here's why it works. This is where beginners get fooled. You judge the promise by the number on the banner. You should judge it by what happens if growth slows. If new deposits drop by half, does the payout still exist? If the risky trades lose money for a month, does it still exist? If the answer is no, that yield is not being earned. It's being funded. And where it's funded from matters. A real faucet can slow down without lying. A cracked bucket has to pretend everything is fine right up until the floor is wet. So when you compare a good yield and a bad one, ask 3 plain questions. What produces the cash? What happens in a bad month? What happens if no new money shows up tomorrow? One system survives stress, the other survives silence. And Celsius looked fine, right until people started testing the pipes. Which raises the question, what exactly broke first? It's the same edge a poker player has at the table, the discipline to fold a tempting hand when the numbers turn, and the nerve not to tilt after one bad beat. Withdrawals are paused. That was the message Celsius users woke up to on June 12, 2022. The app had spent months selling comfort. Your screen showed rewards. Your balance looked alive. Then, overnight, the door locked. The stack of withdrawal requests started growing. A month later, on July 13, Celsius filed for bankruptcy. In its court filing, it said it owed users about $4.7 billion. It also showed a balance sheet hole of roughly $1.2 billion. That is the moment the leaky buffet stopped being a metaphor. Start with the first plain question. What produced the cash? Celsius advertised eye-catching yields, the profit paid on your deposit. At times, as high as 17% a year on some deposits. That sounds like a savings account with better marketing. But the cash was not coming from one boring, steady machine. It came from a mix of loans, crypto bets, and assets that could not be turned back into cash fast enough when customers wanted out. Now the second question, what happens in a bad month? In 2022, crypto prices were falling hard. Confidence was breaking across the whole space. When markets drop, risky strategies usually make less, not more. So the exact moment customers most wanted their money back was the exact moment Celsius had less flexible cash to meet them. That is the trap. In calm weather, the numbers on the app keep updating and nobody complains. In stress, the timing matters. If you promise people daily access, but your money is tied up in longer, shakier bets, you are borrowing short to fund something that needs time and luck. Then comes the third question. What happens if no new money shows up tomorrow? That is where fragile systems break fastest. If fresh deposits slow down, the machine loses oxygen. Less cash comes in. More people ask for cash out. The business now has to meet yesterday's promises with a smaller pile of liquid money. Cash you can actually access right away, today. And Celsius gave people reasons to test that weakness. It marketed safety and yield together, as if those always travel as a pair. They do not. A real yield is paid by cash being produced somewhere durable. A fragile yield leans on rising prices, easy confidence, and a steady flow of new deposits. Once those deposits slow, the story changes fast. This is why the freeze itself matters more than the headline rate. Plenty of people saw the big percentage and stopped there. The better question was always, what has to keep going right for this payout to continue? If the answer is prices need to stay up, customers need to stay calm, and new deposits need to keep arriving, that is not steady income. That is a balancing act. What's interesting, Celsius did not look broken when confidence was high. It looked generous. It broke when people asked the system to prove its promises in real time. So, if a platform is offering smooth rewards in a rough market, what exact questions should you ask before your money gets trapped too? So, what do you ask when a platform promises 12% and everything looks calm? You check the app on your lunch break. The balance is green. Yesterday's payout landed right on time. Nothing feels broken. That's exactly when you need a rule. Fragile systems usually look safest before anyone tests them. Before you send money, run the 3-question rule. It's a pre-mortem. You assume it already failed, then ask why. Quick aside, if this helps, subscribe for 2 a week. First, how do you get out if stress hits? Can you withdraw fast, or can the company suddenly pause withdrawals? Second, how much of your money can be trapped without wrecking your month? If 6 months without access would crush your rent, the amount is too big. Third, is the payout coming from a real business, or is it being kept alive by risky bets and fresh deposits? If new money has to keep arising for old promises to look smooth, that's not strength. That's a refill trick. That's the shift. You stop asking, does the return look good? You start asking, does the structure survive pressure? If you can't answer all 3 clearly, pass. The goal isn't to predict the exact day it breaks. The goal is to spot the weakness early enough to stay out. And once you think that way, you start seeing this same trap in places that look nothing like crypto. Next time an app flashes a huge payout, ask one ugly question first. Where does the cash come from when new deposits slow down? That habit alone can save you from the prettiest traps on your screen. Like breakdowns that make this stuff easier to spot? Subscribe. The next one isn't about crypto, digital money that lives online at all. And the warning sign is even easier to miss.